Welcome to Level 7 of Verbal Advantage. Throughout this level, we will examine the subject of abusage, by which I mean we will discuss some of the most common problems and errors of usage that plague the average educated person. As I see it, much of the abusage committed by the average educated user of English falls into 5 general categories. 1. Redundancy. 2. The sounds like syndrome. 3. Vogue words. 4. Adverbiage. And 5. Jargon. After every set of 10 keyword discussions in this level, we will explore one of these categories, and I will show you how to recognize and avoid the pitfalls it contains. Before we begin doing that, however, let's learn the first 10 keywords in Level 7. Word 1. Redress. R-E-D-R-E-S-S. Reparation, compensation, satisfaction for a wrong done. Synonyms of redress include amends, recompense, retribution, rectification, requital, and quittance. Redress may take the form of monetary compensation, or it may be an act or statement that makes amends, that repairs or compensates for a wrong. One may seek redress for a loss or injury, or one may demand redress for an insult. Webster's New World Dictionary, 3rd College Edition, notes that redress suggests retaliation or resort to the courts to right a wrong. The verb to redress means to repair, set right, make amends for, as to redress grievances, to redress one's losses, to redress a wrong. Word 2. Anomalous. A-N-O-M-A-L-O-U-S. Irregular, abnormal, out of place, deviating from what is usual or expected, not fitting in with a common type or conforming to a general rule. Synonyms of anomalous include inconsistent, unnatural, eccentric, and aberrant. A-B-E-R-R-A-N-T. Anomalous comes from Greek and means literally not the same. Something that is anomalous stands out because it is not the same. It is irregular, abnormal, or out of place. Compared with the last 5 years, these statistics are anomalous. In that neighborhood, full of ticky-tacky houses, the imposing old Victorian mansion was architecturally anomalous. Sometimes he was reluctant to express his opinion because he thought it would be perceived as anomalous. The corresponding noun is anomaly, which means a deviation from the norm, an irregularity. As the only female executive in a company dominated by men, Harriet was an anomaly. His penchant for flamboyant clothes made him an anomaly in his conservative profession. If there is no other life in the universe, then our planet is an anomaly. Word 3. Obsequious. O-B-S-E-Q-U-I-O-U-S. Subservient, submissive, obedient, ready and willing to serve, please, or obey. When the king entered, all the members of the court bowed obsequiously. Bill's supervisor expected the employees to be obsequious, attending to her immediate needs before dealing with anything else. When his wife found out about his affair, Larry tried everything he could think of to persuade her to forgive him, but she scorned all his obsequious gestures and banished him from her bed. The corresponding noun is obsequiousness, which means subservience, obedience, an eager desire to serve or obey. Eleanor was disgusted with Michael's obsequiousness whenever they entertained his boss. Some companies reward obsequiousness rather than initiative and independent work. Synonyms of obsequious include compliant, servile, slavish, ingratiating, word 13 of Level 3, deferential, fawning, toadying, truckling, and sycophantic. Antonyms include unruly, defiant, intractable, word 12 of level 5, refractory, word 42 of level 6, recalcitrant, and intransigent. Word 4. Didactic. D-I-D-A-C-T-I-C. Instructive. Designed or intended to teach. Synonyms of didactic include edifying, preceptive, spelled P-R-E-C-E-P-T-I-V-E, expository, hortatory, and pedagogic. Pedagogic, spelled P-E-D-A-G-O-G-I-C, is the adjective corresponding to the noun pedagogue, spelled P-E-D-A-G-O-G-U-E. A pedagogue is a teacher, but today the word is sometimes used disparagingly to mean a teacher who is strict, narrow-minded, or dogmatic. The adjective didactic comes from the Greek didaktikos, skillful or adept at teaching. In modern usage, didactic means designed or intended to teach. A didactic paradigm is a model or example that serves to instruct. A didactic treatise is an instructive treatise, one that teaches a lesson, principle, or rule of conduct. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle believed that art should be didactic, for one of his famous precepts is that art should instruct as well as delight. Didactic often connotes morally instructive or edifying. A great work of fiction may be as didactic as it is entertaining. Sometimes didactic has the negative connotation of inclined to lecture others in a tedious or excessively moralistic way. The members of the committee soon grew weary of Barney's didactic manner of telling everyone how the organization should be run. The corresponding noun didactics means the art or science of teaching. The word pedagogy, spelled P-E-D-A-G-O-G-Y, may also refer to the art or science of teaching, but more often pedagogy means the teaching profession. Vince and Janet decided that after they were married, they would both pursue careers in pedagogy. Word 5. Truncate. T-R-U-N-C-A-T-E. To cut short, shorten by cutting or lopping off. Synonyms of truncate include condense, abridge, abbreviate, and curtail. Antonyms include lengthen, extend, elongate, prolong, and protract, word 25 of level 3. Truncate comes from the Latin verb truncare, to maim, mutilate, shorten by cutting off, which in turn comes from truncus. As an adjective, the Latin truncus means maimed, mutilated, cut short or lopped off. As a noun, truncus denotes a tree that has been cut down, so that only the stump remains. Probably because the history of truncate contains so much maiming and mutilation, the word usually suggests a more severe or substantial cutting or shortening than its synonyms condense, abridge, abbreviate, and curtail. Of all these words, curtail comes closest to the severity of truncate. Truncate may refer to a cutting short in number, length, or duration. An editor truncates an article or a book by cutting out large sections of it. A heart attack or severe illness can truncate a life, cut it short early or in its prime. And a company might decide to truncate its workforce, perhaps by cutting out several departments. Of course, company executives would never use the word truncate. They would say they were downsizing, which makes it sound as if they're just putting the company on a low-fat diet instead of engaging in an act of corporate mutilation. The corresponding adjective truncated means cut short, abbreviated, terminated abruptly, as a truncated meeting, a truncated explanation, a brief period of economic growth and prosperity truncated by recession. Word 6. Abstemious. A-B-S-T-E-M-I-O-U-S. Sparing or moderate, especially in eating or drinking. The doctor prescribed an abstemious regimen to reduce her cholesterol level. After 6 weeks of being abstemious, he lost 20 pounds and felt 10 years younger. Abstemious may also mean characterized by abstinence, not partaking or indulging, especially in alcoholic beverages. Their abstemious way of life was dictated by their strong religious beliefs. Abstemious comes directly from the Latin abstemius, which means abstaining from liquor. The corresponding noun is abstemiousness. Vegetarianism is a form of abstemiousness. Synonyms of abstemious include sober, temperate, and ascetic. A-S-C-E-T-I-C. Ascetic means rigorously abstemious, practicing strict and extreme abstinence or self-denial. Word 7. Ethereal. E-T-H-E-R-E-A-L. Heavenly, not earthly, hence very light, airy, delicate, or refined. Synonyms of ethereal include celestial, lofty, elevated, tenuous, rarefied, and sublime. Antonyms include mundane, word 22 of level 4, terrestrial, and sublunary. In one of its senses, the word ether refers to an imaginary substance that the ancients believed filled the upper regions of space. In this primitive cosmology, ether was the lightest and most subtle of the elements, which included earth, water, and fire. At first, the adjective ethereal meant pertaining to the ether, the upper regions of space, and therefore heavenly, celestial. Ethereal beings are heavenly beings, creatures or gods that inhabit the upper regions. Out of this notion of elemental intangibility, ethereal came to mean very light, airy, of unearthly delicacy or refinement, as ethereal music, ethereal voices, ethereal beauty, or an ethereal presence or sensation. Word 8. Bombastic. B-O-M-B-A-S-T-I-C. Pompous, pretentious, inflated, overblown. Bombastic applies to speech or writing that is pompous, overblown, or pretentious, or to people who express themselves in this way. Bombastic, grandiloquent, and turgid all denote extravagant language. Turgid, which by derivation means swollen, is used of an inflated style that obscures meaning. Grandiloquent suggests a self-conscious effort to be eloquent through the use of high-flown language. Bombastic suggests pomposity and pretentiousness that masks a lack of substance. The bombastic person speaks in a verbose and self-important way, but says little or nothing. The corresponding noun is bombast. Originally, bombast was a soft, silky material used for padding. The word now means verbal padding, speech or writing that is wordy, puffed up, and pretentious. Word 9. Senescent. S-E-N-E-S-C-E-N-T. Aging, growing old, on the decline. The adjective senescent comes from the Latin senex, which means old. Senex is also the source of the word senile, exhibiting mental impairment due to old age, and the word senate, which means literally a council of elders. Senescent may be used of persons, things, or ideas that are growing old, decrepit, or outworn, as a senescent leader, a senescent forest, a senescent custom, or a senescent industry. The antonym of senescent is juvenescent, growing younger. The corresponding noun is senescence, which means the process of becoming old or the state of being old. Wrinkles, hair loss, persistent aches and pains, and the inability to remember what you ate for breakfast are all telltale signs. Word 10. Pernicious. P-E-R-N-I-C-I-O-U-S. Deadly, fatal, destructive, causing great harm or injury. Synonyms of pernicious include injurious, ruinous, deleterious, word 33 of level 4, noxious, baneful, malign, and noisome, N-O-I-S-O-M-E. Antonyms include healthful, wholesome, salutary, and salubrious. Pernicious comes through the Latin perniciosus, destructive, ruinous, and pernicies, destruction, disaster, ultimately from nex, which means a violent death. By derivation, that which is pernicious leads to destruction, ruin, or death. In modern usage, pernicious suggests an insidious, evil, or corrupting influence that harms or destroys by undermining and weakening. The disease called pernicious anemia weakens the body's ability to absorb vitamin B12. A pernicious influence is a deleterious, corrupting, or deadly influence. A pernicious habit is a harmful and potentially fatal habit. A pernicious rumor is insidious or evil. And a pernicious practice is destructive. It undermines the good intentions of others or corrupts society.
Let's review the 10 key words you've just learned. Listen carefully to the following questions. After each one, decide whether the correct answer is yes or no. Can someone seek redress for a grievance? Yes, redress means reparation, compensation, satisfaction for a wrong done. To redress a grievance is to repair it, set it right. In a modern office, would a manual typewriter be an anomalous piece of equipment? Yes, anomalous means irregular, abnormal, out of place, deviating from what is usual or expected. Would an obsequious person ever tell the boss to get lost? Absolutely not. Obsequious means subservient, submissive, obedient, ready and willing to serve, please, or obey. If something is didactic, does it teach you a lesson? Yes, didactic means instructive, designed or intended to teach. Can you truncate a piece of writing? Yes, truncate means to cut short, shorten by cutting or lopping off. When you indulge yourself, are you abstemious? No. Abstemious means sparing or moderate, especially in eating or drinking. Is an ethereal sound harsh and unpleasant? No, ethereal means heavenly, not earthly, hence very light, airy, delicate, or refined. Is a bombastic speaker pompous? Yes, bombastic means pompous, pretentious, inflated, overblown. Are teenagers senescent? No, senior citizens are senescent. Senescent means aging, growing old, on the decline. Can a virus be pernicious? Yes, Pernicious means deadly, fatal, destructive, causing great harm or injury. That concludes the review for this section. Did you remember to keep track of your answers and calculate your score?
Now let's begin our discussion of abusage. The first category is redundancy. As Bergen Evans puts it in a dictionary of contemporary American usage, the adjective redundant means being in excess, exceeding what is usual or natural. And in grammar, the noun redundancy means the use of too many words to express an idea, such as combined together, audible to the ear, or invisible to the eye. Redundancy is perhaps the most common error in educated usage. It is also the easiest to eschew. Sometimes the problem comes from not knowing the precise meanings of the words we use. For example, when you realize that the word shuttle means to go back and forth, you see immediately that the common phrase to shuttle back and forth is a ludicrous redundancy. In most cases, however, redundancy occurs because we are not listening carefully to what we are saying. It is the result of poor concentration. All most of us need to overcome redundancy is a little ear training to help us hear the repetition of the verbal note in phrases such as at this point in time and audible to the ear. When you train your ear to listen for redundancies, it's easy to correct or eradicate them. And once your ear is tuned in, you'll marvel at how you ever could have been so hard of hearing before, and you'll wonder why so many people can't hear the redundant phrases in their speech. That repetition was obvious, but the verbiage of redundancy is more subtle because it repeats the same ideas, but in different words. Remember from Level 5 my discussion of the advertising cliché free gift? When you step back and consider that free means you don't have to pay and a gift is something given away free, then the phrase free gift appears ridiculous. The ubiquitousness of this redundancy makes you wonder, and you should wonder every time you hear it, whether there's a catch. If they're promising now to give me something free, then what are they going to ask me to pay for later? In his book, The Writer's Art, syndicated columnist James J. Kilpatrick has one word to say about free gift. Arg. To get your ears warmed up to the pervasive problem of redundancy, allow me to present some choice examples. You will probably recognize many of these redundant expressions because they are so common in everyday discourse. Repeat again. How many times in your life have you heard someone say, "Could you repeat that again?" How many times have you asked that repetitive question yourself? By the way, those were just rhetorical questions, so please don't answer them. It would pain me too deeply to learn how many times you've profaned the English language by repeating the repeat again redundancy. As any dictionary will tell you, repeat means to say again. There's no need to say, "Could you repeat that again?" unless the phrase "that again" is what you wish to hear repeated. To avoid this pernicious redundancy, simply drop the word again and say, "Could you repeat that?" Adding please to your request wouldn't hurt. Have you ever listened to people interacting with each other? I hope not. Interact by itself means to act upon one another, affect each other. Are you interested in rapid weight loss? Well, you can instantly lose 3/4 of the 4-word phrase interact with each other, because the word interact alone says it all. Has anyone ever told you to endorse a check on the back? The next time someone says that to you, tell the person to take it back, because endorse already means to write on the back of. You sign a check payable to someone else, and you endorse a check payable to you. Here's another redundancy I hope will not stand the test of time. Past history. Has there ever been a future history or a present history? Past is an uneventful addition to the word history because history already means the events of the past. How about future plans or plans for the future? Whenever I hear those phrases, I wonder if they're the opposite of past plans or plans for the past. A plan is a scheme or method for accomplishing some objective in the future. The all-too-common redundancy, advance planning, is a victim of the same futuristic trap. All planning is done in advance of action. So, taken literally, advance planning sounds as if it means planning before you start planning, or planning when you will begin to plan. Yet another old redundancy is the phrase new innovation. If the unoriginal people who say new innovation would just stop in their banal tracks for a second and consider that an innovation is a new idea, method, or device, they'd realize that when they say new innovation, they are saying literally a new idea. Do you see how a precise word like innovation can so easily lose its power when people use it thoughtlessly? Two other redundancies I'm eager to put a stop to are continue on and its partner in crime, proceed on. Both continue and proceed mean to go on, move ahead. Adding the word on is unnecessary because continue and proceed already imply onward motion. Whenever someone tacks on the word on after continue or proceed, to my ear it's like an oral tic or redundant twitch of the tongue. Moreover, speakers who develop the continue on, proceed on habit run the risk of going on and on ad infinitum. Even if you are now guilty of committing this redundancy, it's easy to get rid of. Whenever you say continue or proceed, just stop right there and don't go on. Once you become aware of redundancies, it seems as if they're everywhere. In fact, to use one of our keywords from Level 6, you could say that redundancies are ubiquitous. Here are some more redundant samples you can put in a mental file marked Say It Again, Sam. I have culled every one of them from, quote, educated speech and writing, unquote. Listen carefully now, because I won't repeat these again. Just kidding. Fellow colleague. Your colleague is your fellow worker. Cooperate together and collaborate together. Cooperate and collaborate both mean to work together. Confer together. To confer means to get together to exchange views. Combine together. Combine means to mix together. Recur again. Recur means to happen again. Completely unanimous. Unanimous means to be in complete harmony or agreement. Vacillate back and forth on the issue. To vacillate means to waver, go from one side to the other or back and forth. Report back. Eliminate back. To report means to carry back information and repeat it to someone else. Return it back to the store. To return means to give back. Eliminate back again. Ascend upward. Ascend means to go upward. Descend down. Descend means to go down. Dwindle down. To dwindle means to decrease or go down gradually. Passing fad. A fad is a brief or passing fashion. Hoist up and raise up. Hoist and raise mean to lift up. Real or actual fact. A fact is something real or actual, something demonstrable. Erupt or explode violently. Erupt and explode mean to emerge or burst forth in a violent manner. Mutual respect for each other. Mutual respect says it all, because mutual means for each other, given and received by each one. Compete with each other. Compete means to vie with another or others. Final ultimatum. An ultimatum is a final demand. Visible to the eye or invisible to the eye. What else but the eye can something be visible or invisible to? The nose? Universal panacea, or a panacea for all ills. If you remember our discussion of panacea from Level 4, you'll remember that a panacea is a universal remedy, a cure for all ills. New recruit. A recruit is a newly enlisted person. Temporary reprieve. Reprieve means temporary relief. Necessary requirement. A requirement is something necessary. Final completion and final conclusion. Completion and conclusion both imply finality, so the word final is superfluous. Opening gambit. A gambit is an opening move, or a remark intended to open a conversation. Each and every day. Say each day or every day, not both. From whence. If the folks who say from whence looked up the word whence in a dictionary, they would see that it means from where or from what place. This redundancy should not go back from whence it came, it should go back whence it came. But don't you go away, because here are some more common redundant phrases in which one word already says all that is meant. Large in size means large. Small in size means small. Few in number means few. Extend out means extend. Expand out means expand. Radiate out means radiate. Cancel out means cancel. Reduce down means reduce. A consensus of opinion means a consensus. A variety of different choices means a variety of choices. And finally, in the phrases join together, link together, merge together, and blend together, the word together adds nothing but baggage. Say join, link, merge or blend, and throw together in the trash. Some redundancies are so outrageous that it's hard to believe the writer or speaker cannot hear the repetition of meaning. Get a load of these, every one of which I assure you I have either heard on radio or TV or seen in print. Artificial prosthesis. A prosthesis is an artificial device that replaces a missing body part, such as a leg. Stone-cut lithographs. A lithograph is an engraving made in stone. An old antique. An antique is something old or old-fashioned. Pre-recorded earlier. Something pre-recorded has been recorded earlier. Say, recorded earlier. Previous preconceptions. A preconception is a conception or opinion formed in advance, an opinion formed previously. He was not physically present. Was he spiritually present? Did he have an out-of-body experience? Drop physically and say, you were not present. Omniscient knowledge of all things. Omniscient means all-knowing, having knowledge of all things. Completely annihilate. Annihilate means to destroy completely. Current incumbent. An incumbent is a person currently holding an office. Don't say present incumbent either. Individual person. If a person is an individual and an individual is a person, then an individual person must be a person who is a person. Theodore Bernstein advises that it's best to use individual as a noun only when you mean to distinguish a person or persons from a class or category, as the individual and society, or benefits for corporations and individuals. In all other contexts, use person or people. He wrote an autobiography of his own life. What other life could an autobiography be about but his own? The same goes for she wrote a biography of his life. A biography is the story of another person's life. They were dressed identically alike. People are either dressed identically or dressed alike. But if they are dressed identically alike, then they are dressed the same, if you know what I mean. In conclusion, let me share with you just a few more ridiculous redundancies that I don't think require any comment. Your laughter and scorn will suffice. He has an appetite to eat. She is one of 2 twins. We have a population of people to feed. She is quite popular with the people. Given the current problems right now. It happened unexpectedly, without warning. Are those redundancies incredible to believe, or what? Just kidding. As I said before, and at the risk of repeating myself again and making it difficult for us to interact with each other, once you become aware of redundancy, it's easy to correct because the cure is simple: deletion. And now, my verbally advantaged, unredundant friend, it's time to say goodbye, so long, and ta-ta-ta to the land of redundancy and return to the verbal advantage vocabulary for the next 10 keywords in Level 7. Word 11. Catholic. C-A-T-H-O-L-I-C. Universal. All-inclusive. All-embracing. Comprehensive. Specifically, broad-minded, tolerant, or all-embracing in one's sympathies, interests, or tastes. Catholic with a capital C refers to the Roman Catholic Church, to the religion of Catholicism, or to a member of the Catholic Church. Catholic with a small c has nothing to do with religion. It comes directly from Latin and Greek words meaning universal, general, and suggests a broad-minded, tolerant, all-embracing outlook on life. Synonyms of Catholic include open-minded, liberal, ecumenical, and latitudinarian. Antonyms include narrow-minded, bigoted, biased, intolerant, dogmatic, and parochial. The words ecumenical and Catholic both mean universal, general, whole. Ecumenical, spelled E-C-U-M-E-N-I-C-A-L, often refers specifically to religious universality, and especially to that which furthers or is intended to further the unity of Christian churches or unity among religions. Catholic, with a small c, is the general word for universal in one's personal outlook, broad-minded in one's sympathies or tastes. The Catholic person is not narrow-minded, partial, or bigoted, says the Century Dictionary, but possesses a mind that appreciates all truth or a spirit that appreciates all that is good. Word 12. Objurgation. O-B-J-U-R-G-A-T-I-O-N. A harsh rebuke, vehement scolding or denunciation. Synonyms of the noun objurgation include reproof, reproach, upbraiding, vilification, and vituperation. The corresponding verb is objurgate, which may also be pronounced objurgate. To objurgate is to rebuke sharply, chide harshly, denounce vehemently. Objurgate and objurgation come from the Latin ob, against, and hurgare, to scold or quarrel. In colloquial terms, that is, in the vernacular, when you are called on the carpet or you are read the riot act, you are on the receiving end of an objurgation, a harsh rebuke, vehement scolding or denunciation. Word 13. Effusive. E-F-F-U-S-I-V-E. Gushing, overflowing, overly demonstrative, expressing emotion in an excessive or unrestrained manner. Synonyms of effusive include exuberant, profuse, ebullient, impassioned, ecstatic, and rhapsodic. Antonyms of effusive include undemonstrative, reserved, aloof, indifferent, reticent, diffident, taciturn, word 2 of level 3, and laconic, word 18 of level 3. The adjective effusive and the corresponding noun effusion come through the Latin effusio, a pouring forth, from the verb effundere, to pour out or pour forth. True to its origin, in modern usage, effusion denotes a pouring or gushing forth. The word may be used of a literal gushing, as an effusion of gas or fluid, or it may be used figuratively of an unrestrained emotional outburst in speech or writing. Effusive is nearly always used figuratively to mean gushing or overflowing with emotion. Overly demonstrative, as effusive praise, effusive greetings, an effusive style of writing. At the dinner party, Dan's effusive host couldn't stop telling everyone at the table what a great guy he was. Word 14. Umbrage. U-M-B-R-A-G-E. Offense. Resentment. Synonyms of umbrage include displeasure, irritation, indignation, and pique, P-I-Q-U-E. Umbrage is most commonly used today in the phrase to take umbrage, meaning to take offense. One takes umbrage at being slighted, either by a real or an imagined insult to one's dignity or pride. He took umbrage at the criticisms leveled against him in the meeting. She took umbrage at his rude manner. You may also feel umbrage, resentment at something, or give umbrage, offense, to someone else, but these constructions are less common. Word 15. Vicissitude. V-I-C-I-S-S-I-T-U-D-E. A change, variation. Synonyms of vicissitude include alternation, fluctuation, and mutation. By derivation, vicissitude means change, and in modern usage, a vicissitude is a change, variation, or an alternating condition occurring in the course of something. The word is perhaps most often used in the plural, vicissitudes, to refer to the changes that occur during the course of something, the ups and downs. We speak of the vicissitudes of daily life, the vicissitudes of the stock market, or of a business surviving the vicissitudes of 20 turbulent years. Word 16. Contentious. C-O-N-T-E-N-T-I-O-U-S. Argumentative, quarrelsome, ready and eager to argue, bicker, or debate. The words contentious, litigious, pugnacious, disputatious, belligerent, and bellicose all refer to quarrelsome or hostile parties who are inclined to engage in argument or conflict. Bellicose, spelled B-E-L-L-I-C-O-S-E, means having a warlike or hostile nature. The ancient Spartans were a bellicose people. Belligerent, spelled B-E-L-L-I-G-E-R-E-N-T, may mean either participating in fighting or provoking a fight or a war. A belligerent nation either engages in conflict or provokes a conflict. A belligerent look or a belligerent remark can lead to a fight. Pugnacious, word 8 of level 5, by derivation means ready to fight with the fists. It suggests a temperamental inclination to fight or quarrel. As a child, Melvin was unruly. As a teenager, he was deviant. And as an adult, he became a pugnacious barroom brawler. Disputatious means inclined to dispute, and usually applies to people who engage in formal arguments or to anything involving formal debate. Scholars are often disputatious, and it goes without saying that politics is disputatious. Litigious, spelled Litigious, means tending to engage in lawsuits or litigation. Although it is entirely appropriate to say that the legal profession is litigious, meaning that its business is to engage in lawsuits, in current usage, litigious often implies an over-eagerness to settle every minor dispute in court. Contentious comes from the Latin contentio, striving, effort, and ultimately from contendere, to strain or strive against another. From the same source, we inherit the verb to contend, to struggle, fight, strive in opposition, and the noun contention, which may mean either a struggle, opposition, as they were in contention for the job, or an assertion made in an argument, as it was his contention that if the company wanted to remain solvent, it should truncate its workforce. The adjective contentious means always ready and willing to quarrel, and suggests a persistent inclination to pick fights or arguments. You can be in a contentious mood, meaning you are in an argumentative mood. You can have a contentious coworker, one who is quarrelsome. Or you can make a contentious comment, one intended to provoke an argument. Antonyms of contentious include peaceable, obliging, civil, tolerant, amiable, amicable, benevolent, equable, and forbearing. Word 17. Obeisance. O-B-E-I-S-A-N-C-E. A gesture of respect or submission, or an attitude of respect and submission. Synonyms of obeisance include deference, homage, adoration, reverence, and veneration. Obeisance comes from French and means literally obedience. It was once used to mean obedience or the power or right to demand obedience, but these senses are now obsolete. Obeisance now means a respectful, submissive attitude or a deferential gesture, one that shows respect for the superiority of another. Obeisance is used chiefly of formal situations in which respect or homage is paid to a god, a ruler, a religious leader, or a person of great influence or power. A bow, a curtsy, and a genuflection, a deferential bending of the knee, are all examples of obeisance, a gesture or attitude of Word 18. Assiduous. A-S-S-I-D-U-O-U-S. Hard-working. Industrious, done with persistent, careful, and untiring attention. Synonyms of assiduous include diligent, painstaking, persevering, unremitting, indefatigable, and sedulous. Antonyms include lazy, shiftless, indolent, languid, phlegmatic, and otiose. O-T-I-O-S-E. Assiduous comes from the Latin assiduous, which means sitting continuously in one place, engaged in an occupation, and ultimately from the verb sedere, to sit down, the source also of the English words sedate and sedentary. By derivation, assiduous means sitting down and working diligently until a job is done. In modern usage, assiduous means done with persistent, careful, and untiring attention, constant in application or effort. We speak of assiduous efforts, an assiduous reader, an assiduous student, or an assiduous worker. The corresponding noun is assiduousness. Pamela was delighted that her assiduousness earned her a promotion. Word 19. Duplicity. D-U-P-L-I-C-I-T-Y. Deceit, cunning, double-dealing, hypocritical deception. Synonyms of duplicity include trickery, dishonesty, fraud, guile, chicanery, casuistry, and mendacity. The noun duplicity comes through the Latin duplicitas, doubleness, and duplicare, to double, ultimately from duplex, twofold, double. Literally, duplicity means doubleness of heart or speech. In modern usage, it refers to double dealing, an act of deception in which one uses hypocritical or misleading words or actions to hide one's true intentions. Steve was astounded at the duplicity of some of the salespeople who seemed willing to say anything to close a deal. The corresponding adjective is duplicitous, which means two-faced, deceitful. The duplicitous person pretends to entertain one set of feelings while acting under the influence. Word 20. Insouciant. I-N-S-O-U-C-I-A-N-T. Carefree, nonchalant, light-heartedly unconcerned or indifferent, free from worry or anxiety, calm and unbothered. The French phrase sans souci means without care or worry. The English word insouciant combines the privative prefix in, meaning not, with the French souci, care, worry, to mean literally not caring, free from worry, light-heartedly unconcerned. Nanette dismissed Albert's contentious interruption with an insouciant wave of her hand and went on with what she was saying. Insouciant sometimes implies a carefree indifference or lack of concern for consequences. Jim drove with an insouciant disregard for the speed limit and the hazards of the road that Paula found frightening. The corresponding noun insouciance means light-hearted indifference, nonchalance, a carefree lack of concern. Basking in Angelina's ethereal presence, Peter experienced an insouciance he had never allowed himself to feel before.
Let's review the 10 key words you've just learned. Listen carefully to the following statements and decide whether each one is true or false. A person can have Catholic interests, and an idea can have Catholic appeal. True. Catholic means universal, comprehensive, specifically broad-minded, tolerant, or all-embracing in one's sympathies, interests, or tastes. When you agree with something, you express your objurgation. False. An objurgation is a harsh rebuke, vehement scolding or denunciation. Effusive speech or writing is restrained and concise. False. Effusive means gushing, overflowing, overly demonstrative, expressing emotion in an excessive or unrestrained manner. When you take umbrage at something, you take offense. True. Umbrage means offense, resentment. The vicissitudes of life are its problems and challenges. False. The vicissitudes of life are its changes or variations, its ups and downs. A contentious person enjoys engaging in arguments or debates. True. Contentious means argumentative, quarrelsome, ready and eager to argue, bicker, or debate. An obeisance is a display of disobedience or disrespect. False. Obeisance means a gesture of respect or submission, or an attitude of respect and submission. An assiduous worker is inclined to be lazy or careless. False. Assiduous means hard-working, diligent, industrious, done with persistent, careful, and untiring attention. Duplicity is a sign of a responsible, loyal person. False. Duplicity means deceit, cunning, double-dealing, hypocritical deception. An insouciant manner is a carefree, unconcerned manner. True. Insouciant means carefree, nonchalant, light-heartedly unconcerned or indifferent. That concludes the review for this section.